In 1980, Americans walked into Kmart expecting toys and televisions, only to find the Commodore VIC-20, a full-featured home computer, selling for an unthinkable $299. It would become the first computer to sell over 1 million units and rewrite the future of technology. But how did a budget machine spark a digital revolution? The answer starts with a risk few dared to take. Shoppers in 1981 found themselves staring at something unexpected in the electronics aisle. A computer not in a specialty shop, but right next to the TV and typewriters at Kmart. The VIC-20 price tag read $299. For many families, this was the first time a home computer seemed within reach, costing less than a color TV and hundreds less than the Apple II or TRS-80. Commodore's decision to launch in department stores, not just electronics boutiques, put the VIC-20 in front of millions of casual shoppers. Retailers were skeptical at first, but the promise of high-volume sales and a price that undercut the competition changed the conversation. Commodore's marketing team doubled down with primetime TV ads. William Shatner, fresh off Star Trek, leaned into the camera and asked why buy just a video game. The message was clear. This was not a toy, but a wonder computer for the whole family, and it cost less than most people expected. Print ads splashed $299 in bold, pitching the VIC-20 as affordable, practical, and fun. Department stores ran in store demos, letting kids and parents try out games and type their names on the screen. Retail buyers saw machines flying off shelves, sometimes faster than they could restock. The $299 price point did not just attract tech enthusiasts. It pulled in parents, teachers, and anyone curious about the future. For many, the VIC-20 was an impulse buy, a leap into home computing that felt as easy as picking up a new kitchen appliance. Commodore's gamble on mass-market retail and bold advertising paid off, making the VIC-20 a household name before most rivals could react. Jack Tramiel's voice echoed through Commodore's headquarters. "We need to build computers for the masses, not the classes." That wasn't just a catchy line for the press, it was a strict order. Tramiel, who had steered Commodore from calculators into computers, believed that price was the only way to win against giants like Apple and IBM. He demanded a retail price under $300, no matter how the engineers grumbled. Memos from his office spelled it out. Use what's in the warehouse, design with what's already on hand, and never ask for expensive new parts. This directive shaped every decision. The VIC-20's heart, the video interface chip, came from surplus inventory. It was originally built for a project that never launched. The 5 kilobytes of RAM, barely enough by the standards of the day, was dictated by a stockpile of small static RAM chips gathering dust in the storeroom. Even the choice to use a standard television as a display instead of a costly monitor fit Tramiel's edict to keep costs low and reach the broadest possible audience. For the engineers, these rules forced tough trade-offs. They had to squeeze performance and features out of whatever chips and materials were available, sometimes improvising solutions with parts that other companies would have discarded. But Tramiel's cost-first philosophy wasn't just about saving money. It was about opening the door to families who had never considered owning a computer. His relentless focus on affordability set the boundaries for what the VIC-20 could be, and defined the creative constraints that would challenge the hardware team in the months ahead. Powering on the VIC-20, the first thing that grabs attention is the burst of color. 16 different shades fill the screen, a palette that stands out against the era's usual green or amber text. The display grid, just 22 columns wide by 23 rows tall, gives each letter and number a chunky, unmistakable look. This wasn't a business terminal, it was a computer that wanted to be fun. The graphics mode, topping out at 176 by 184 pixels, made every game and homegrown animation blocky but bold. Kids drew spaceships and smiley faces, watching them come alive in a rainbow of colors, even if the pixels looked more like Lego bricks than fine art. Sound was just as lively. The VIC-20 could play 3 notes at once. A sound chip that let games and programs layer music, effects, and even simple beeps for alarms. For families used to silent calculators or the occasional beep from a Pong console, the VIC's chords and arpeggios felt futuristic. One minute it was a spaceship blasting off. The next it was a simple melody echoing through the living room. The sound generator gave every game a personality, from racing games with revving engines to maze games with cheerful jingles. At the ready prompt, the computer invited anyone to start typing. BASIC was built in, and the manual encouraged new owners to try a simple program. Type the one-line 10 print quote, "Hello Vic, quote, colon, goto 10, then press return." The screen filled with words, a loop that seemed like magic to anyone who had never programmed before. Even with just 5 kilobytes of RAM, the VIC-20 made it easy to experiment. Draw a maze, play a tune, or make the screen flash with color. The limits were obvious, but so was the invitation. Make something, see it, hear it, and play. For many, this was their first taste of digital creativity, all in the space of a few minutes. Loading a game on the VIC-20 could feel like an act of faith. The Commodore dataset cassette drive, a staple for budget-minded families, spun in Word as it transferred data at around 50 bytes per second. A small BASIC game, maybe 4 kilobytes, meant staring at the screen for more than a minute, listening to the tapes hiss and hoping nothing went wrong. Larger programs dragged on for several minutes, and a single slip of the finger or a worn-out tape could send you back to the beginning. This ritual, equal parts anticipation and anxiety, became part of the home computing experience for millions. But the VIC-20 had a shortcut for the impatient: the cartridge slot. Drop in a game cartridge, and in less than a second, the program leapt to life. No loading bars, no rewinding, just instant action. Kids who grew up with cassettes remember the cartridge's satisfying click as the sound of freedom. The contrast was dramatic enough that families sometimes fought over who got to use the precious cartridges, especially when friends came over and time was short. Beyond games, the VIC-20's ports turned it into a playground for tinkerers. The user port, a wide edge connector at the back, invited hobbyists to connect all sorts of homemade gadgets. Modems and printers were the most common, but resourceful users built everything from light sensors to simple robots. The $99 VIC modem, one of the first affordable home modems, plugged right in and let users dial into early bulletin board systems, opening a new world of digital communication. As the years passed, Commodore introduced a floppy disk drive, offering faster and more reliable storage. But for most VIC-20 owners, the day-to-day reality was a dance between patience and instant gratification. A cassette's slow crawl, a cartridge's leap, and the constant temptation to see what else this little computer could do if you dared to plug something new into its ports. Bedroom coders hunched over VIC-20s, turning tight memory and sluggish processors into a playground for invention. With only a handful of bytes to spare, they wrote programs that bent the rules, using tokenized BASIC to squeeze entire games into a few lines, or crafting assembly routines that rewrote themselves mid-run to save space. Cartridges unlocked even more daring feats. Demo scene veterans packed swirling graphics and pulsing music into the unexpanded machine, using every trick in the book. These constraints didn't stifle creativity. They fueled it, shaping a culture where making the impossible work was the ultimate badge of honor. The VIC-20 broke records as the first computer to sell over 1 million units, a feat that turned heads across the tech world. By 1985, more than 2.5 million VIC-20s had made their way into homes, classrooms, and bedrooms, far outpacing expectations for a so-called entry-level machine. This surge opened the door for the Commodore 64, which would go on to even greater sales. Today, the VIC-20's legacy lives on in retro computing circles, where fans still trade stories, share new code, and celebrate the computer that made programming personal for millions. The Commodore VIC-20 was the first computer to sell over 1 million units, a fact documented in sales records from the early 1980s. Its $299 price tag, Jack Tramuel's cost-driven mandate and mass-market rollout changed how families saw home technology. We saw how limited memory and simple graphics led to real ingenuity, inspiring users to push boundaries with basic and assembly code. Yet some details, like the true number of surviving units and the complete story behind certain design decisions, remain unclear because not all company archives have been released. Today, the VIC-20's legacy is evident in the way affordable computing became standard, shaping what we expect from technology at home. Its legacy is cemented not just in numbers, but in the millions who took their first steps in computing thanks to its accessible design.